Is your Vrikshasana or tree pose strong, or are you taking advantage of the perhaps natural flexibility that you have to avoid using strength? This is an interesting question. So I'm going to show you an exercise today. I'm kickstanding up on one toe, touching my fingers to the other hip, and then practicing pushing the hip towards the fingers and then pulling the hip in away from the fingers, kind of swaying to the other side. So this will give an idea as you come into better alignment that you're using strength, not flexibility. Then we can actually lift one foot up and practice the same thing. It becomes a little harder as we lift one leg. So repeating this a few times. So going a little slow, the body learns when we take things slowly. So now keeping that alignment nicely, the hip pulled in, try taking the knee out to the side as wide as you can without moving the pelvis. So you'll get an idea of how much rotation is possible without bracing. So in other words, without using our sort of natural flexibility, only strength. Lastly, just lightly touching the foot to the leg, the lower part of the leg, so that you're forced to use strength. So it's a kind of practice tree, let's say. Then we'll move to the other side and repeat the same thing. So what we know is that there are very different pelvic structures. You can see here in the diagram many variations on the pelvic structure, and these are all female pelvic structures. We know that because women have babies, get lots of scans done at that time, and we can see that the structure is different. In fact, the structure between the male pelvis and the female pelvis is also quite different, as you can see in this diagram. And a last thing that has some impact on our tree pose is the relationship between the femur and the pelvis. And sometimes the angle is greater, more open, sometimes it's more closed. And so some people will have a difficulty rotating the femur and getting as much flexibility as others. So if we decide to focus a little more on strength in the asana, maybe we don't go to our full range of motion. We make sure that we're not pushing or jutting one hip out to the side. So now, having done these small exercises, we can approach the tree, keeping the standing leg very firm and making sure that the hip is not pushed out. So here, taking the foot up a little higher, of course, on the thigh, but keeping the hip in and just watching. So now you'll see on screen some shots of you doing the tree. I asked for some submissions and many of you happily submitted pictures. You can see different bodies. Sometimes the angle of the upper leg is different. With other people, it's coming up a little flatter, straighter. Other people, the knee is pointing down. So this is because of the pelvic structure that is natural for us. There are many variations of the tree pose. You can see one here, but going back to the basics and just looking at the strength is always helpful. So I'd like you to try that today. You can review the first part of the video again for those exercises if you like, but I hope you enjoy seeing these wonderful variations in different places, different people, different happy faces. Vrikshasana is an asana that people like very much, so I'm very happy to see you in practice. And I'd encourage you to work on the tree, to think about strength in the practice at least sometimes. And here we have some nice variations as well, some very creative ones. So all the best with your practice. Om Namah Shivaya.